I want to welcome everyone back today to day 2 of our e-commerce growth week here at NetElixir. We do have a special guest joining us today. It's one of our partners over at Miva, joined with one of their folks from their team. But with that, today we're going to focus on building a high-performance e-commerce website with NetElixir, and as also mentioned with our Miva team. So I know we're putting on one slide. So just a little bit more about the e-commerce growth week for those that joined us yesterday. It's to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Albert Einstein and a lot of the theories that he revolutionized in our world. And that's the purpose of the e-commerce growth week that we have today. So during this week, you'll see a lot of solution experts jump in, talk about every aspect of e-commerce, all the way from website development to SEO to even Amazon Marketplace as well. For us, Einstein is a huge NetElixir inspiration from everything that he's done, his curious and inquisitive nature, and just how he's helped humanity view the world through a different lens. And that's really our main intention here at NetElixir itself. It's to aim and change the overall e-commerce strategy that we have and help people bring together and gap that knowledge and continue to provide a lot of learning towards the folks that we have out in the e-commerce world. A quick agenda that we have. So I'll quickly go through a little bit more about NetElixir. We'll cover the speakers a little bit. I'll do a quick NetElixir Miva introduction. From there, I'll pass it over to a few of our speakers that are going to join us. So we'll go over a current e-commerce landscape, how to build a strong e-commerce website, what to expect when going through a site migration, and then the last piece I think is going to be the gist of it all is just a panel discussion with our team. And then, as always, feel free to throw in the questions in the Q&A box. We have a team that's watching it, but any questions, concerns, comments, we'll address them all throughout the presentation or even at the end. So with that, today is day 2, building a high-performance e-commerce website with NetElixir and Miva. And tomorrow, to wrap up the series, is going to be a session with talking about Amazon and Amazon marketplaces. But today I have a couple speakers that I wanted to introduce, and they'll start speaking a little bit. But joined with us is Alex Hawley. He's our Senior Solutions Manager and our MarTech Liaison here at NetElixir. Also joined with us is Philip Hansen. He's the Enterprise Account Executive over at Miva. And then also joining us from the NetElixir team is Anthony Turco, the Director of Business Development. I'm Marvik at NetElixir. I'm our Senior Partner Manager, and I'm going to be hosting today, and I'll take you guys through the panel discussion and everything else in between. But jumping right into it, talking a little bit about NetElixir as well. Who we are, what we do, we help e-commerce brands find and engage high-value customers. And how we do that is to help them acquire game-changing insights so we could drive the right traffic, the right high-value shoppers towards your website. The more data and knowledge that you have, the better you're able to make those marketing decisions. So that's really where our team could come in and help support you in terms of getting the right customers. We have a slew of solutions as well when it comes to that. And we have a wealth of e-commerce growth solutions all the way from digital marketing strategies, paid search and shopping, paid social, Amazon, SEO, analytics, and of course, today's main topic is the e-commerce development piece. But a few partners that we've had the chance to work with over many, many years. And some of those partners you'll see across the top here is one, our UPS Ready partners that we fall into their digital connections program. We have our partner with Google and Microsoft being a premier and select partner there. And then of course, joining us today is also our Miva partnership that we've been able to work with over the last couple of years. And then to talk about from a client's perspective, there's some brands that you might see that are familiar here: Swell, Lenovo, Kansas City Steaks, anywhere between food to fashion. And over the last 17 years, we've had the chance to work with a lot of the retailers, anywhere from small, medium to large. And just to wrap it all together, what's the biggest differentiator with NetElixir? So over the last 17 years, we've invested over 7 million hours in developing the know-how and what goes on in the e-commerce world. We have worked with over 500 e-commerce companies, retail e-commerce companies, and we've built a strong partner ecosystem to help not just our customers, but also help our clients and our teams grow and expand in terms of how we could help you, the clients as well. We have a lot of technology that we've built in-house. And one of those technologies is called Elixir Insights. And it's a customer intelligence platform that pulls a lot of data to help you understand your shoppers, how to target them, and again, how to make those better marketing decisions. And the last two big differentiators that we have is we have worked in the international space for over 12 years. So just having a lot of that knowledge back there. But with that, you can hang out on this slide, Alex. I wanted to quickly introduce Phil from the Miva team to kind of give us a quick overview of Miva, who they are, what they do, and then we'll get right into it. So Phil, if you are available.
Thanks, Marv. Hey, you guys see me okay? Thanks for having me on. Philip Hansen here. I've been with Miva a little over a decade. I've been in the e-commerce space coming up on 15 years or so. Used to work at a small agency doing some of what Alex and you guys are doing at NetElixir. And Miva is an e-commerce platform. We have a fantastic offering that really empowers users to and our merchants to differentiate their experience online. And what we're talking a lot about today is all about that differentiation. So we help customers drive higher conversion rates and higher average order values and reduce their operating costs. And we'll get into more on kind of as we go around how we go about doing so and kind of what sets us apart. But we've been a partner with NetElixir for a little while now, and it's been great to see that flourish. And yeah, thanks again for having us today. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Phil. So right when we get into it, I just got one more slide. I'm going to pass it over to Alex, who's going to be our lead here. And it's just a request to take a survey at the end of this. You know, the more knowledge we have and what we can do better, if we can improve what you liked, what you didn't like, it would be greatly appreciated. And also following us on a lot of the social that we have out there, especially with LinkedIn, where we are live streaming this as well. My last request, again, is any questions that you have, feel free to put them in the chat box. We have a whole team back here that will filter them. We'll address them throughout. But with that, I do want to introduce Alex. Again, he is going to be taking us through everything that we're going to talk about here today.
All right. Thank you so much, Marv. So we're going to be talking today about what it means to build a high-performance, high-quality e-commerce website. Talking about training the past couple months, we're going to be touching on design and we're going to be touching on the technical elements. At the end, we'll be opening this up to a panel discussion. So please, if you have thoughts, if you have questions percolating in your mind, write them down, send them in the chat. We would love to answer them. So let's get started. The problem that we're seeing is that there's a huge boom right now in e-commerce, and not every retailer is positioned to take advantage of it. 16%, over 16%, of total retail sales in the US are going to be online by the end of the year. And very often I see companies that we work with, companies that we pitch to are struggling. They're struggling. It's hard to keep advancements in the e-commerce space, and it is hard to maintain a store. For a lot of people, their e-commerce stores become an afterthought. And recent events have brought to light that this can't be the case. So across different industries, you'll see this is an e-marketer study. You'll see that the growth and change is rapid. You're seeing double-digit growth amongst most industries, and that the percentage that each industry needs to be online, right? Electronics being a huge one, apparel and accessories ever growing. It's increasingly important that you take your website seriously. So, keeping up with these changes is huge. Just to point out a few statistics that I found, a cursory look, just to give you an idea. Customers are quick to judge websites. They assess your design and they make assumptions about your business based on what they see within a 20th of a second. In a fraction of loading up your page, your home page, a customer will decide, is this a legitimate business or not? Is this a business I would feel comfortable sharing my secure information with, my credit card with, purchasing from? I found an interesting statistic, $2.6 billion attributed to slow loading websites. Google has a lovely statistic to support this. They say, for every 1 second off of your page load time, you can expect a 7% increase in revenue. There are dollars to be made based on how quickly your page loads. 75% of customers will admit to making judgments about a company's credibility based on their website. 46 pick this credibility strictly from the design. So some people will be like, oh, I have a cluttered website, I have a lot to say. Well, the design, the actual appearance of your website will affect if people are not take you seriously. It is truly incredible what you see from customers. It's ever evolving, and it's to say, hey, I want a simple, easy, and plain, commerce experience. I want something that's familiar to me. And last but not least, this is something that I care about a lot. I have a bit of a background in cybersecurity. The most common attack target for hackers and for malicious e-commerce sites, they're seen as very vulnerable. A lot of businesses that I've worked with who've come to us saying, we need to redo our website, we need to migrate platforms. The reason they do it is because, they've been hacked. They've experienced vulnerabilities. Some estimates place about 29% of inbound website traffic as malicious. What if you've been doing this for a while is maybe 50% of all traffic isn't even human-based. It is machine-based, right? You have crawlers, you have scrapers, things of that nature. And the number one target, almost a third of all attacks are targeted against e-commerce firms. This is more than banks. This is more than social networks. This is more than money transfers. Why? Because they're seen as vulnerable. You do business to be vulnerable. And forgive me if I have a bad connection. I think I'm getting a few notifications about that. If I come in and out, hopefully these slides speak for me. All right. So now I'm going to jump in. What makes a good website? Well, the first thing you have to address is what doesn't make a good website? What have we learned about website building over the years? So I want to open with a poll to the audience. Would you buy from this website? I've covered up the logos here with just a generic template, but would you purchase from this website? This is a website from the early 90s. It's deals, consistently low prices. Would you purchase from it? The opening line, for those who can't read it, maybe you have a small screen. If you explore one thing, make it our personal notification service. We think it's pretty cool. Would you buy from a website like that? It doesn't sound professional. It doesn't look professional. In fact, it looks very sketchy. Well, this is Amazon's website, 1994, right? Our evolution of sites that we would purchase from, the consumer taste, the consumer expectation has evolved, and it is still evolving. It's something that, you have to keep up with, and you have to acknowledge that, hey, in the past 5 years since maybe I last reevaluated my website, the past 5 years since I made changes, things have changed. And if I want to be a good website today, I have to change. Amazon, great example. It has changed from this lovely list, essentially, of hyperlinks and tiled logos to the most popular e-commerce site today. And it did that by adapting to consumer expectations. So I wanted to take you a trip down memory lane. What makes a good website? Well, we know what makes a bad website. We know what we've left behind. So here are a few websites. Maybe this fills you with nostalgia. It certainly does for me. We have the old eBay website. We have Ask Jeeves. That's irrelevant. Apple, a fantastic website today. This is what it looked like in the 90s. And who can help it? There's a new movie coming out. Love the one growing up, Space Jam. These were considered good websites for their time, but none of them would stand up today. Why? Are they too cluttered? They have too many links. Certainly we don't do the JavaScript, right? Like the intense JavaScript that you see on the Space Jam website, where every button has to be its own cute image and it all has to be clickable and respond like that. That's not something that we do nowadays. This generation of the web is commonly referred to as Web 1.0. We are now currently on Web 3.0, right? We've iterated so much on the internet and internet design, consumer expectations, that this is your grandfather's internet, and it's only from 30 years ago. So how have websites changed in the past decade? Now, this is something that a lot of us can more readily remember. It's been a much more subtle change, right? But you can notice it across some of our major players. So this is the Amazon website, right? From about late 2000s to today. Facebook, as we all remember the old Facebook login. Now it looks something more like this. these websites have been changing along certain principles. Amazon's a great example here. You see that it declutters, it moves the menu, right? We have a shift to mega menus. We have a shift to more prominent search bar. We have a shift to more dynamic hero images, right? Facebook, much more interesting. You can see how they've shifted to say, hey, we wanted to make it easy for people to create an account. We want to make it easier for people to jump on from around the world, right? They have the languages at the bottom, but we want to keep it still plain and simple. Twitter is interesting because Twitter shows kind of this mobile first development, right? Something that a lot of customers, a lot of website owners are struggling with today. The idea that your site should look just as good on mobile as it does on desktop. It should be, in fact, mobile first. It should look like a mobile app. And lastly, YouTube. YouTube, a lot more subtle, less links, more relevant subscriptions, right? So it used to just be like kind of your YouTube homepage. Everyone saw more or less the same thing. Now these recommendations are tailored to you. It's all about how can I make YouTube not for a million people, and not for a billion people rather, but for you specifically. So this is what's changed in the past 10 years. And a lot of people are struggling with these changes. They're very technical. They're very scary or intimidating. So I want to talk about UX. These are 9 principles relatively agreed upon on what makes good UX. Mobile first, this is a new development. I say new, it's been around for probably over 5 years. You need to have a fast website, something that loads quick. User expectations are under 3 seconds to load your homepage, which a lot of people can't do. It needs to be simple and easy to navigate. So things like mega menus, things like not a lot of cluttering of links like you saw on that old eBay website. Relevant content that speaks to your audience. You need to know how to connect with them. Like, what do you see when the first thing you land on the homepage? For Amazon, it's content about Prime. It's content about daily deals. It's content on bestsellers. It needs to have a consistent look and feel. If you're jumping around on your website and the colors change, the fonts change, that might confuse people. That might make them think, hey, I've navigated off this website, or something weird is going on here. I don't necessarily trust it. It gives an unsettling feel to customers. Clear feedback on actions. This is the principle that if I submit a form, that form has some sort of feedback. Like, hey, you submitted the form, it has been received, we will respond to you in XYZ days. Or I've submitted an order, here's your order tracking number. Some idea that like when I do an action, it is being registered by the site. Otherwise, people can feel frustrated. They can put in 10 requests to your customer service and nobody's happy. This, I think, is the most important because it's the least acknowledged trust indicators. Trust indicators may be a UX decision. They may be a technical decision, like a SSL, which is the little lock you might see in the top left corner next to your URL. These are signs that, hey, I run a legitimate website. I run something where you can reach out to somebody if there's an error with your order, or you can receive a refund, or we're not going to, take your money and run. 8, it has to be unobtrusive. I still see a lot of people struggle with this today. They'll have a pop-up the first thing when they land on your when you land on their website. It will say, hey, sign up for our mailing list. That's a bit obtrusive. You see a lot of bounce rate. So a lot of people will come to your website and immediately leave if they have to deal with pop-ups like that. And last but not least, this seems almost blatantly obvious, but you still see people mess it up. Fully functioning. A lot of websites will be half done and they'll say, hey, I just need to start making money. I needed to start generating revenue. So who cares if I didn't put in the block, right? If that link leads nowhere. This is not good. This is not good for your organic rankings. It's not good for SEO. It's also frustrating for customers. If they're navigating around and they say, hey, this site is unfinished. You wouldn't invite somebody into your store if the lights didn't work. Why would you invite someone to your website if the links don't work? So Anthony, if you have anything that you'd like to add on this, Anthony Turco, he is our development director. He's seen a lot of prospects come in through the days, right? And they've been at different stages entirely.
Absolutely. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it. Anthony Tucker here, Director of Business Development. And as Alex mentioned, I generally become the first point of contact, my department, for prospective clients that are looking to work with NetElixir. And my role is to really diagnose issues from all different levels, not just marketing channels, but also that UX side, which brings in the development world. And I think, Alex said it best when he talked about, if the lights don't work in your store, you wouldn't be ready to bring people in, or you'd certainly get those lights fixed immediately. And my, piece of advice that I give all of the prospective clients I talk to is the effort is always there to invest in marketing quickly. But let's take a look at your e-commerce store. How is it ready to accept an influx of customers, right? And I think, what Alex pointed out with it being, 16% growth in retail, you have all the malicious activity that could happen coming into the site, site loss in revenue due to site speed. It's important to get your house in order. And by your house, I mean your e-commerce house in order. And these top level UX things that Alex has on the screen here, cannot stress enough. These are things that you do not want to skimp on when you work with a web development. And that's where what I love working with Miva and the partnership that we have there is that we are all on the same page in terms of what is critically important for your site. We do not cut corners in this partnership. And again, you have a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week salesman, never takes vacation, never gets sick, and is always at the top of his game. Wouldn't you want to invest and pay him top dollar? Well, that's your website. Your website's always on. It's always ready to go. So again, can't stress it enough. These are 9 great UX tips that Alex has on the screen here.
Exactly, Anthony. I stand by these as the key pillars to building up a solid website. And to touch on what Anthony said, there are certain things that you really don't want to skimp on. And Anthony, again, feel free to chime in. Professional design. You want a website that is unique, but you do want a website that feels like other websites. You don't want the customer to feel outside of their comfort zone. You just want them to get a new experience. You don't want to skip on tools and plugins that enhance that customer experience. For example, things like a live chat, things that let them get in contact with your team, and things that really measurably improve their experience. So that might be adding value by doing advanced shipping. That might be adding value by doing custom products. So don't skimp on those tools if they really do enrich the customer experience on the site. Fulfillment services, you do need a solid provider, a logistics solution. I'm obviously didn't revolutionize customer expectations. People expect things in 2 days. People expect things tomorrow. Anywho, let's jump right back in. So yes, Amazon's absolutely revolutionized what fulfillment means. And the customer expectation is there that, hey, if I'm buying online, I can get this within a day or two. I can get this quickly. Additionally, having a social presence, ever key. You need to say to people, hey, this is how you reach out to us, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. This is how we interact with our shoppers, with our community. Product and service photos, if they can't see it, they're not going to feel comfortable buying it. Additionally, this bar is extending now, and you'll see it more so come in the next couple of years, to things like AR and VR. We're like, hey, I want to see it in my space. I want to see how big it is. And then last but not least, don't skimp on the free exposure, right? Don't skip on the organic opportunities to spread your business like Google My Business.
Yeah,
there,
I think
your hours. This is low-hanging fruit.
Just want to jump in there too, Alex. Where we have a couple of key tips there, and one on the last slide and one here. The last one, if you notice, it said, if you're unsure whether your website is user-friendly or not, it's probably not user-friendly, right? It should invoke a good feeling when you go in. I mean, if you've ever had a cluttered garage, dirty house, and you walk in, you can feel it. You should feel that same way with your website. And I think one of the things that when I run into and talk with prospective customers is a lot of the business owners kind of come with their own bias towards their website, right? They see it through rose-colored glasses, and that's totally understood and to be expected. So it's just having that consciousness of it to look at your website and look to improve that design 1 to every 2 years. Alex did a great job showcasing, look how far Amazon has come, right? And they've had 10 to 12 major iterations over the last 10 years. and hundreds of different subtle changes that they've made. They're constantly innovating. And remember, if you're not innovating, your competitors are. So if they're adding live chat, if they're offering better design, better tools, plugins for customer support, better fulfillment services, that's giving your customers a better user experience. So again, you do all the marketing that you want in the world, drive millions and millions of customers to your site. But if it's not driving a good experience for them, it's not going to matter how much traffic's coming.
All right, so how do you know? How do you know that you have a high performance site? How do you know what you're getting? So you have to ask yourself, how do you know it's time to move to an e-commerce, an enterprise solution? You have to ask you, why am I moving to this? Essentially, these enterprise solutions like Miva, Miva especially, it's just the time and the cost that's prohibitive to switch platforms. This is the last stop. This is the highest thing that you can buy. It's the highest quality. You'll receive dedicated support. You'll really be working with people who see you as a business partner. The Miva team especially, I think, cares about this. You can really feel it with them. Going to a platforms means that you are working with someone who's constantly updating, improving, and expanding on their offerings. Miva empowers innovation and differentiation on your website, so you should really lean into that. Working with these enterprise solutions, flexibility and functionality is key. They really offer more than, say, a cheap and cheerful option that you might be pitched, where you'll see a significant price tag difference. Not necessarily really what you're getting, and you're not necessarily getting what you think you're getting. Last but not least, enterprise solutions are scalable. These offer the idea of saying, hey, if you want to go from 1 million to 10 million to 100 million, this is the website platform to do it. You don't have to change it every 3 years. You can redesign, you can rebuild, you can restructure within that platform. E-commerce shouldn't be an afterthought. Ultimately, you should pour a lot of time and effort and make the investment to succeed online.
And Alex, just with that e-commerce not being treated like an afterthought, because that's mostly my world, right? In my department, most of our time is spent with driving traffic to the site and engaging in the marketing opportunities. But I can't stress it enough. Like, think of a casino, right? You can advertise a casino all day long, but how do they lay out the casino? It's designed in a way to get you to spend money, right? You want to get to the buffet, you got to walk through slots and the table games. You want to get to the bar, same thing. So you want to think of your website in the same way. How can we design the site, not just for good user experience, but for good, profitable user experience, right? You want customers to have a good time on the site, but you want them to buy. You're designing the site for a reason. So it's important to keep that in mind. And that's one thing that our development team at NetElixir does, working with that core foundational engine that Miva brings and does such a good job bringing. That partnership there helps build those foundations in so that you have a design, it's a profitable design, not just that cheerful design that looks good, as Alex said.
So we've been helping companies upgrade to enterprise solutions for a while. This is our first with them. It's really just a testament to, Mark, if you want to jump to the next slide, the lovely trifecta that is UPS, Miva, and NetElixir. The team works really well. It produces great results, and all of us are aligned with helping you succeed. NetElixir wants you to succeed so you can market to more people. UPS wants you to succeed so you can deliver to more people. And Miva wants you to succeed because they want you to stay on their platform. We're all in show up and perform for you. So now here comes the meat and potatoes of it. How do you set up expectations on migrating? How do you successfully know what you're going to ask? Here's a list of questions. We can, if you are curious, these are the things you should be asking yourself, your team, your decision makers. A professional migration will run you roughly $30,000 to $100,000 based on what your specific needs are. But these are the questions you should be wondering. And these are knowing what you can change. Certain tasks are fairly easy to do in-house, and certain things are a lot more difficult. I think this graphic just shows it very well. If you're doing UX changes, if you're saying, hey, I want it in a different color, I want to make a page that looks slightly different, that's fairly easy. Once you start moving to the left, it gets harder. Switching platforms is incredible. It involves basically building a website from scratch more often than not, migrating over existing data, taking a customer feel, a customer experience, and trying to transition that into a new design. These are things that you should ask yourself, what is my team capable of doing, and what can I reasonably expect from them? So you should be wondering, hey, I haven't looked at my website in years. I haven't moved my website. I don't know anything about UX. What are my clues that, hey, maybe it's time to move? And I've split this up into two categories. There are reasons you can get out ahead of it and be proactive. And there's certain circumstances where you might already be behind the 8 ball. Proactive reasons, hey, I want to take advantage of automation. I maybe want to save on labor hours, make it easier for my team. I want to integrate with ERP system or take advantage of headless architecture, which is the idea of like building a website or an e-commerce ecosystem. Maybe you're undergoing a significant redesign and you just want to incorporate a lot of new features and functionalities. And maybe this is the moment to say, hey, we're redoing everything. Let's just take out the base too, right? Reactive circumstances, your conversion rates dip. Most retailers should see at least a 2% conversion rate. If it's below that, maybe it's your industry, but more than likely it's your website. So you should start looking at that. Maybe Amazon becomes part of the competition. Once Amazon's involved, you need to have a website at least comparable to basic e-commerce functionality. Otherwise, why would they go with you when they can go with Amazon? You need to have that strong foundation. Maybe your current website is broken or compromised. Maybe you had cybersecurity issues. Maybe it's not fully finished. It might be a good time to look at building a new platform, building it up from scratch. Or your current platform is no longer supported. I know Magento recently sunsetted Magento 1. If it's no longer supported, you got to move off of it. And last but not least, customers are beginning to provide negative feedback about your site. That's the biggest red flag here. If your on-site experience is so bad that someone is going out of their way to tell you, you got to fix it.
Yeah, and I just want to jump in too, kind of address the elephant in the room on the last slide with the pricing, right? And where most migrations fall within that 30,000, 100,000 range. Some of you listening, that might be sticker shock for you. I know I've come across it a lot of times during my day when it comes time to give that price of what it's going to take. But I want you guys to think about it. And if there's one major takeaway in terms of price that I want you to have from this is, look at those reactive points that Alex listed there. Everything there is costing you money. And it's important to quantify that. As a business owner, you have to look at those opportunity costs, right? If your conversion rates are 0.5% and a new website could go up to 3% or 4% conversion rate, it's a simple calculation to take, well, if I had 100,000 people visit my site last year, that's an extra 3% of that you're now getting converting. That's going to well more than pay for your website, right? And think about your mobile speed. We showed a statistic there about how many people drop off after a certain amount of time and how much money is wasted there. So don't look at the cost to migrate. Look at the cost that you're currently being affected by not migrating. That would be my piece of advice. And then that will help lead you down towards the path of a solution, because the site, if you don't make the change, it's only going to fall further and further behind, making it that much more difficult in the future.
Absolutely, Anthony. So I want to take this opportunity now, we're a little bit behind on time, to just move on to the panel discussion. So Marv, if you come back to the conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks, Alex. So we did want to share some information with the team. If there's anything that you guys are looking to access, when to switch, we have a free checklist on our site, NetElixir.com, that you could download from the webinar. But with that, I do want to allow some time. So I'm going to invite Alex, Anthony, and Phil back in, and we'll jump into the panel discussion. So you guys give me a heads up when we can see everybody. You should be able to still see my screen. Awesome. I think I see everybody. Perfect. So Phil gave me the thumbs up. That means we're good to go.
I'm here.
So I actually did want to start. Phil, again, thank you and the Miva team for taking the time. Just some quick introductions as well. I wanted to, again, introduce Anthony. He's our Director of Business Development. Phil, he is from the Miva team. He is the enterprise account executive, and Alex, again, who took you through this lovely presentation, he's on our solutions team, working very closely with our development folks as well. So just to start off, Phil, I know we started off the presentation with a little introduction about Miva, but if you could just give us a quick grasp in terms of what Miva specifically specializes in, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that's great. We're talking a lot about the front end experience and differentiation and the agility to do that, and the agility to bring that kind of an experience to light is what we do as a platform. So we offer a feature-rich platform that empowers customization without touching source code. It's again really agile, lets you get that kind of experience where you can have an idea on a Monday and put it into practice on a Thursday. In our space, we've got a lot of, to use Alex's term, the cheap and cheerful options, right? Where it's, hey, I got a basic template and the site looks pretty, but there's not a lot of kind of functionality to it. There's not a lot of strength or maturity to that offering. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got the, hey, I just built something from scratch, right? Downloaded some open source tool and we have a team of developers and we're spending a lot to keep that secure, maintain. It's usually harder to keep that up to date. So we're a middle ground between that. We've got that best of breed kind of balance where we've got this incredibly powerful and capable, flexible platform, but it's still incredibly stable, easy to use, intuitive, makes the job easier for the NetElixirs out there that are taking that and expressing your brand and bringing that site to market. So that's our kind of what we specialize in is bridging that gap.
Awesome. Thanks, Phil. Alex, I don't know if you wanted to add anything in there, or Anthony, in terms of that.
Oh, I would just double down on what Phil said. The Miva is a great middle ground. I think it's a great Goldilocks. I think it's a developer's choice. It really allows you to have that sort of in-depth ability to play around with the site without chaining you to building your own site. You don't have to build it from the ground up. Miva is there to give you the wheels, but you can still do whatever you really want to on. It's a great tool.
Yeah, and I would just add too, the industry experience, the customized industry experience, right? These aren't just templates. Miva has a great level of expertise in a variety of different industries. I'm always amazed when we jump on a call for a client who needs parts for custom 4x4s, right? And Miva has, here's 2-3 examples, boom, right, ready to go of sites that they've worked on in that similar industry. So I think that's always a positive, having been there before for very specific niche industries.
Yeah, and just to come back on that, didn't really mention this, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Anthony. Miva's been in business over 20 years, several thousand customers on the platform. We're not industry or vertical specific, and it's pretty crazy how broad the kind of verticals are that we're catering to. And like I mentioned earlier, I've been at Miva a long time. I've personally worked with hundreds. It's maybe not quite in the thousands, but I'm one of many of our reps that have that kind of experience. We tend to keep customers a long time. We tend to keep employees a long time. And so it really is not the typical experience when you look at some of our mainstream competitors that are heavily funded, massive sales groups. We're a lot more personal and closer on the partnership front.
Awesome. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, guys. So continuing on, I know Miva and NetElixir, we have a slew of partners, and this question is more geared towards the Anthony and Alex side over at NetElixir. But when we do choose the partners we work with, we don't want to just make sure, hey, it's going to benefit NetElixir, it's going to benefit Miva. The end result is, hey, how's it going to benefit our customers? How's it going to make life easier for them in a sense? Alex, Anthony, could you tell us a little bit more about the Miva NetElixir partner specifically, and how does this partnership benefit our customers in the long run?
Absolutely. I think the Miva NetElixir partnership has been very interesting. I've been with it since the inception. It sort of came out rather organically in the sense that we were working on Miva websites and we were reaching out to the Miva team. We're like, hey, what tools do you guys have to do this functionality or that? And eventually bridges started getting built of like, hey, you like working with their tech team? Hey, they like working with ours. We do good work together. Ultimately, what it means for our customers is the ability to do more unique implementations. Say, hey, how can I take the Miva platform and really make it my own? We had one case study, one customer who said, I want to do a complex order approval feature where a customer gets an email of someone else placing an order and they're allowed to approve it So that way departments can handle B2B orders on the site. And it's impressive because we were able to do it. And he was like, I've never done anything like this before. And we hadn't either. And together we were able to venture into new ground. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah, I think just the personability of Miva, that not that they just show our clients and their clients, but also how they show to us as a partner as well. And I think that's extremely important because there's a lot of moving parts. When you get into a development, there's so much going on, and everybody needs to be on their toes and able to turn things around very, very quickly. I mean, these are the partnerships that go throughout history, right? Your city planner and your engineer, your architect, and then your contractor, right? Now you have your site engine, right, of Miva, right? The blueprint behind that, and then you have your developers in NetElixir. And those relationships are so critical to the success of our mutual client that we couldn't have partnered with anybody better.
I wholeheartedly agree, Anthony, Alex, on that. So jumping into it, this is a question for everyone, but I did want to start with Phil. 2020 had a massive impact on the retail world in a sense, and we all know that if someone was on e-commerce, chances are you grew. And we saw that shift more specifically during the digital world as well. So in that, how have you seen things accelerate in your industry specifically during the pandemic? And then the second part of that question is, what do you see happening in the horizon or in the future?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's doubting e-commerce is important. It's impacted every business under the sun. We're seeing that. It's no longer optional. It's like it's now digital first, and then how does that impact the rest of the experience for a business? Our customers, I think when we looked at our customer base for the year, it was a little over 30% year-over-year growth. From March or April to the end of the year, it was close to 40%. And that's including verticals that were hurting, that had significant contractions during 2020. So long story short, there was a lot of growth for us as a vendor in the space. A lot of different trends that have already been in play. People that started with those cookie cutter platforms out there, when you throw a bunch of traffic and it starts scaling, you're like, oh shoot, I need to do some things. They realize, oh, I'm hitting my head on the ceiling. So we saw a lot of that growth last year. We saw a lot of B2B continues to be there. I would say B2B is probably the strongest trend last year, is folks that couldn't send a rep out on site, or they had product that they needed to move and they just didn't have the outlets to do so. And so they were launching new direct-to-consumer lines. They were streamlining their experience to leverage e-commerce instead of the sales rep, or to empower the sales rep rather. We're not a fan of laying off all your sales reps. Let's let technology do what it's good at, and let your people add value and do what they're good at. But those are a couple of the big trends. And then some marketplace folks had some scares with Amazon and others deciding what was essential or not. And so realizing developing their own branded direct experience to drive business was really helpful. Uh-oh, did I freeze?
Nope.
You guys are there. Okay, all right.
No, I have you.
And I want to add to that too, as I think Phil did a great job of talking about the intrinsic things that we saw, right? That happened just to the marketplace world. But looking at it big picture, right? To me, again, finance background, Merrill Lynch, JP Morgan, and seeing things as a number, right? I look at it as it's a giant insurance policy, right? To get your site the way that it needs to be for the next time a pandemic or something big shift came into the market. 2020, I know Phil said it was a huge boom, and rightly so. We saw the same thing, but that's everybody that was doing it reactively. If you go back to Alex's slide, right, that was all in a reactive mode. There's no better time than right now, as things are calming down, coming back to normal. Make the investment in your digital presence so that the next time something happens, you're prepared and you're not running around last minute trying to get it done. Think of it as your long-term insurance policy. And if you have a brick and mortar out there and you're not online, think of it as you have everything backed up, right? You have a safe with all your personal stuff, extra copies being made. When you do tax time, you get 17 copies, right? Well, have a digital copy of your business, which is your e-commerce site. So any brick and mortars out there that's not online, cannot stress it enough. Get your digital copy, get your digital backup online for e-commerce. And of course, NetElixir Miva can help you get there.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony. For the sake of time, I know we're right around the mark. I'm gonna skip down to the end because I know there was a couple questions from the chat as well. But I do want to keep this one open-ended. Alex, Phil, Anthony, feel free to jump in. And it's a question that I see when we're talking to a lot of retailers, that it's on retailers' minds in itself. But what are the top 3 things actually that you would look to address when you talk to brands about enhancing the site experience? However you guys want to start. Maybe Alex, do you want to start and then kick it over to Phil and then Anthony?
Absolutely. So my 3 drums, I guess, if I had to pick 3 to beat, trust indicators. I feel like not a lot of people, pour in that effort to say, hey, I want to make a site that looks and feels trustworthy. They just assume that, hey, I have a secure checkout. That's all it takes. It's much more nuanced than that. The second thing I would say is maybe page speed. I think everyone should say page speed here. I'm sure that'll be an echoed notion. Quick loading websites make dollars. And I suppose the third thing I would say is content is king. It always has been, always will be. If you can tailor your content, if you can A/B test, if you can figure out what resonates with your customer.
I was going to say 2 out of the 3 same. So I'll take a broader one and talk about that path to purchase. It never gets old. Think about when the customer knows what they want, is their path to go add it to cart and get through a checkout? Is that efficient? Is that a smooth process for them to do? It never gets old. There's always things to make it easier. There's always ways to look at that. There's new payment options. There's always something new to look at, but just make sure on the mobile device, especially since, oftentimes we're seeing 70+% of traffic on a mobile device, make sure that path to purchase is smooth. And then on page speed, I just add, do it for your customers and do it for search engines, right? It helps on both fronts. So page speed is just, it's so critical. It's so helpful. And you kind of get that added benefit if you're pleasing the search engines as well as your users. And, content, user generated content, all that fun stuff, that'd be a third one item from there. But I know we're a long time.
So, yeah, since I'm the last one, I'll just give you one, and I'll say it 3 times because it's that important. Is track, track, and track. You got to track the behavior of your customers as they go through. So, and Phil talked about that path to purchase journey. Understanding at each level, look at your analytics, make sure all those things are tied in. Look at event tracking. Are they clicking on this banner ad? Are they clicking on this offer? Is that coupon code being used? And did all that traffic, did it originate from an organic search? Did it originate from a paid search? Mobile device, desktop device, right? All that rolled into one is so important. Leverage your analytics. We have some advanced BI software that we use for some of our larger clients. So you can never get enough data and can never stop tracking. Use heat maps to see where your customer eyes are going, to always think about improving, right? We said about 1 to 2 times a year. You want to just look at your site and can it be improved?
Awesome. Thanks all. So I know, just wrapping up, I know there was one question that did come into the chat, but it looks like Alex, you did address it, or someone from our team addressed it, just in terms of sharing the Google diagnostic and the page loading tool that Google has. But we will share that. We'll share that with the team, get that over to them. Overall, Anthony, Phil, Alex, appreciate you guys taking the time. Any last pieces that you wanted to put out there?
Phil, you want?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks again for the time. And again, e-commerce is important, and make sure your site is where it needs to be. It's a critical business system, and it's a critical channel that will continue to gain importance in your business moving forward. So go get it.
Yep. Just thank everybody for their time. Really appreciate you guys hanging in there with us today. It was my pleasure, as well as with my colleagues, to share some insights. And like Phil said, no excuses. If being online is a sincere goal, and it stands to be a goal for the foreseeable future to grow it, get yourself a good website.
Absolutely. And to steal a phrase from Anthony, your website is your 24-hour, 7-day-a-week salesman. Make sure they're taken care of.
Perfect.
That's the best plan out there.
Awesome. Appreciate it. With that, we'll wrap up today's session. Appreciate everyone taking the time to jump in. But again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll connect you with anybody, even the Miva team. We can share their contact information as well. So thanks again, everyone. Enjoy it. Have a good day. I know it's raining here, but stay dry.
Thanks
everybody.